Hi, this is Kingfish, and welcome to another devlog for The Waking of Haven. As a quick recap, I'm a solo dev who's working on this project mostly on the weekends and evenings, while I'm leaning on my 9 to 5 to put food on the table. Importantly, I'm also pursuing a low-code approach for building nearly 100% of the game's logic, which is kind of a big deal because I don't have any form of technical education. The game is a high fantasy, low click action roguelite RTS, which sounds like a bunch of word vomit, but really means you play as a hero with the command of a small squad of soldiers who you get to grow with through a daily excursion into an enchanted forest, with the goal of finding resources to bring back to a central haven, which you call home. The setting is entirely original, and you could say I learned to code, if you can call it that, because I felt compelled to bring this world in my head to life, and a video game seemed like the best way to do so. It has been a wild couple of months of development. If you've seen my previous videos, you'll know that things were going well until I hit a really big bug that cost me a couple months of progress, causing me to miss my shot at Steam's Next Fest. I think the deadline was the end of August. That had been a big goal of mine, and missing it the way that I did felt real bad and kind of shook me. But I'm happy to say that I dusted myself off, I got back to work, and I've gotten back on the horse. The game is really starting to come together. In this devlog, I want to take a moment to walk you through some of the big changes, challenges, and wins that I've had in the last couple of months as I push towards my next big milestone, which is a playable demo that is understandable enough for a stranger to try out. Let's go ahead and dive in. First things first, I've revamped the player selection experience. And interestingly, the hardest part of this was writing the logic that remembered who your previous hero and skill choices had been. This sounds really simple, but saving those selections reliably was rough, and at the start it was really full of bugs. I'm happy to say that it's working now, as far as I can tell, and it really makes hopping back into the game way smoother and simpler and more intuitive. Next, I've added 2 new priests to the game. These characters can show up once you've collected enough of a special resource, unlocking sower-themed upgrades, that is the gods who are responsible for this forest, upgrades tied to your chosen faction. To support this, I built a lightweight dialogue system, which means you can also now talk to Pan, the steward of Haven. He's got some thoughts to share, of course. Alongside this, I've redesigned the home base. It now includes pinned markers that help players understand that they can do things in base, like go to the patrol shop or buy upgrades for their defenses. This at-a-glance understandability is really huge, and it's starting to feel like an actual real hub that has a life of its own. Next up, forest maps. The forest maps that I have been working on have received a major upgrade. You can now find a lot more resources to pick up and spend back in Haven, and there's a lot more things scattered around that you can purchase with the gold that you've gained from your slain enemies. My favorite part, though, is the addition of hostile plants and traps to the maps. You can avoid them, of course, but you can also push your enemies into them. This helps add a tactical layer onto the various maps, making terrain something that you actually have to account for during a fight. Should spice things up. Next up, core combat has gotten some love as well. Unit attacks now have a knockback effect, which adds kind of a satisfying weight to the fights, kind of like a big slugfest. I've also added a visual wind-up to enemy attacks, which helps telegraph danger before it hits. This fixes an issue I found where damage would hit the player the exact moment where an animation had started, which would then kill the player, triggering the death menu before the player had realized that they had been hit because the animation had only executed for a single frame. It feels bad to find yourself dead all of a sudden without an explanation, and so this is a big fix for just the basic funness of the game. Also, the player now has an ability called Focus, which is kind of short for Focus Fire. This replaces the Rush command, which didn't really seem to be helpful. With Focus Fire, you can tell your squad to target a specific enemy and ignore all others. This sounds really simple, but in reality, it was a pretty difficult challenge to code. The logic crossed very fundamental scripts that I wrote 2 years ago and required me to dig deep through my core unit AI state machine, which looks more like spaghetti than actual working code. It was invasive, it was messy, but at the end it was totally worth it, and I think everything still works the way it's supposed to, so that's a win. I've also added help text to the pause screen. This is a really small thing, but it should help explain some of the core mechanics which aren't necessarily obvious and should help augment the learning that the player made in the tutorial. I actually also want to share something that I didn't finish. I've paused development on a side project called Embernook. I was going to build this kind of pocket village where you could bring refugees and build a homestead. It was supposed to be super cozy, but it wound up being very ambitious and candidly super distracting and very full of bugs. As fun as this sounds, building your own little village in this world, it doesn't deserve my main focus right now because my main goal is building that playable demo so I can get feedback. At some point in the future, I want to return to this as maybe like an end game thing that you can do or thing that you can build up over time. But as far as getting the core gameplay loop, I just had to put this one on hold. Now, speaking of getting feedback and getting feedback on the core gameplay loop, my first real playtester, Luke, shout out to you, man, I appreciate you, just got his hands on the game. His feedback has been an absolute goldmine. And so far, there haven't actually been that many bugs, but most importantly, his fresh take on it all has given me a bunch of ideas that I can take back and make the game better, some of which are actually included in this update right now. That whole experience has given me hope that in the next couple months, I'll be able to actually take this game, make a few tweaks, and open it up to folks that I haven't met before who might want to join something like a closed beta. If that sounds like you, feel free to leave a comment and I'll hit you up with an invite to Discord when that's ready. With that said, I will need to find a way to attract more potential testers and generally collect feedback. Quick shout out to my 12 subscribers. I appreciate you guys more than you know, but I am going to need a lot more eyes on this project to be able to get over the finish line and feed my family. By that, yes, I mean these adorable guys. We just rescued them, and I have no idea how I'm going to pay for their college. Jokes aside, marketing is not my strong suit, so I will need to get creative. I hope you will forgive some of the potentially cringy videos that might be coming up soon, but I need to throw some spaghetti at the walls and see what does and doesn't stick. As always, feedback is super helpful. Now, looking to the future, I am planning a roadmap video which outlines my definite plans post-demo. I have a lot of ideas bouncing around in my head, and it'd be really nice to be able to get those onto paper and start collecting feedback and seeing if there's any excitement about them. All right, I think that wraps it up. Thank you for sticking with me. The Waking of Haven is really coming together, and I can't wait to share more with you in the coming months.